Okay, so I make large scale sculptures and large installations, like room size or building size installations. And my work deals with woman issues and specifically miscarriage, and the sorry, I'm really really nervous.
So one of the questions I had was kind of what, for you on the artist side, how does it feel, first of all, to like incorporate those very personal stories into your work? And then I think a little bit about that saying, the personal is political. And I was wondering if that had anything to do also to kind of, in your work as well. So.
Right. So one thing I really try to do is reach as many people as possible. Like people don't have to necessarily have been through the same experiences as me, and I'm more concerned with getting through the feelings, and having the viewer like feel some of that that I and relate in that way, so yeah, it is really really personal, and so I I kind of try to step away sometimes and kind of go from the third person, because otherwise it can get really intense and feelings, and so I try to well, a lot of times I'll just make a joke or something, or say something silly, or do something add an element that is just ridiculous, kind of take that edge off. But also I feel like if like people if they're laughing, or if they see something and it's funny, and they're laughing, and then all of a sudden they realize how serious and really sad or terrible it is, it kind of gets that emotion is a little bit deeper. Right. I feel so.
And the pieces that you have in the exhibition are part of your installation, Monika House. So I was wondering, another kind of two-part question, if you could tell us just a little bit more about Monika House and what it is, or what it was. And again, like you said, you like to work really large size. I mean, right. You took on this whole house, so you talk a little bit about that as well.
Okay, so I found this old Victorian house, 5,200 square feet, and I utilized as much as that as I could. I even put an installation on the third floor and in one of the basements in the wine cellar, so it was my MFA thesis show, and I had I can't remember, 16 installations and sculptures. So I took all of these sculptures that I had been working on for the past 2.5 years prior, and incorporated them into each in its own room in the house, and so and also using like the house, the rooms that they would normally be, like the dining room was set up like a dining room with a huge table, dining room table, and kind of a tea party, with a giant fetus on top of the table. And then in the library was it was like a visual history of my history, of my grandmother's history, my mother's history, my history, and then the history of my daughter who never existed. And so all of these rooms, they all have different tell different pieces of the story, and then and it's all all throughout. You have to walk throughout the whole house, and I don't know. So yeah, it was kind of I don't know. It was interesting. I'd let people walk through, and then I like to go through it again with them and kind of give them like a narrative for kind of my take on it. And I like to see their reactions and their questions or whatever. Yeah, it's definitely very I don't know, intense.
How do you so these were this sounds like it was something too that you were working on for multiple years, or it was a build up to get to this point as well. So just, I mean, I think it's just so impressive to think on that scale and to know make it that large.
I didn't know exactly what it was going to end up being. I had a few ideas. Like, I didn't know I was going to be able to acquire this huge Victorian estate, and I kind of it worked out perfect. It couldn't have been even more perfect ever. Because I had the house looked just like my childhood dollhouse, and so it was like playing. It was like a life-size dollhouse. It was me playing with my sculptures and all of these rooms and having all of these ideas and themes in this dollhouse that I'm literally playing in, and yeah, so it's and then my actual childhood dollhouse was in one of the rooms too. It was so it was pretty. So one of the bathrooms, every surface in the entire bathroom had cuts of yellow liquid and pregnancy tests in each one of them. There was hundreds of cuts and pregnancy tests. And then all of the wrappers, like all over the floor, and it's just the intensity and the I guess the repetition and the when you're trying to get pregnant, when you're trying to keep a pregnancy, then all of these, the constant worry and the constant either hope or relief or and all of these different feelings that you get when either when you're trying to get pregnant or when you are pregnant. and so that room's kind of hard to be kind of hard to be in. It's a little overwhelming. But and so all of the tests I took all of them, and they're all negative. So yeah, it's like a spotlight, things that we have been taboo, and I don't understand why, why our culture is so about don't let anybody know that you're on your period, or don't if you're in the bathroom, then don't open your wrapper too loud, cough or something like. I mean, I don't know how we've got it, why we're in that position, but I I think that, this says it opens up, dialogue, between women. And I'm hoping that it will become less, as it's less taboo and less uncomfortable to talk about, that more women will realize that it's not, it's not just them, or it's not, they're not the only person this has ever happened to. And then I think that, coming together and knowing that there's other women that are going through, the same things, or have been through the same things, and we can, help each other and comfort each other. And I feel like there shouldn't be that disconnect between women. I mean, I don't know, I could go on, but I think that it's really important to help each other. And not just women too. I mean, I think that the world needs to help each other. I think that everybody should help each other. But anyway.
Right. No, I mean, I agree. I feel like these are such shared experiences, and that it's really kind of strange that, we don't want, we don't feel like we can, or we don't want to talk about them, or, it's kind of that idea of it being taboo.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think I think all in all, it's just, I think, really strong. Let's see, the other piece, hopefully, I mean, we can work with you in the future, but I know the other piece that we have in the galleries is about blood. It's a blood spot. And if you wanted, and I know in your statement too, you talked a little bit about this, the presence of blood in your work. I don't know if you wanted to expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So that piece is like the physical representation of a miscarriage, and it's an exaggeration, where I've taken this pool of blood, and I cut it out of red velvet. It's really soft and delicate red velvet, and then embroidered designs and shapes, and just taking all this care just to show how much this what would normally be like just cleaned up, or a mess, to a spot to clean up. But for me, how important and how much it meant, how important it was to me, and how and because of this, painstakingly embroidering, this red velvet blood, and yeah. So, and then the red. I mean, so the red is like is the actual blood, and then so I feel like I always carry that with me, and then so I have this thing with pink, and it's like of the blood, and then it doesn't matter how much goodness or light or white is added, it turns pink, and then it stays pink. It doesn't matter how much white you add to it, it'll stay pink forever. There's no getting it back to white, to pure. And so I kind of feel like that the color pink kind of describes that feeling I have of always carrying this with me.
Exhibition focuses on artists in the Mountain Plains state, and kind of thinking a little bit about, the places where we choose to live and work. I was wondering if you had any comments, what it meant for you to be an artist that works within this region, within this community.
Yeah. So I was born in Wichita. I've lived in Wichita my whole entire life. Gone to school in Wichita. And so it's definitely very, I'm very much feel at home in Kansas. And I do kind of embrace this whole idea of being, in this unique area of the country where, things are a lot slower and things are a lot where we can kind of take our time a little bit more. And there's not, things aren't, on the coast where things are so expensive and people, can barely, survive in a, small space. And so I really, I really enjoy, living in Kansas, living in the middle. I've visited other places, of course, so, and I love the ocean, and I'd love to live on the ocean someday, but, probably because, I don't know why, but, yeah. So I think that is great. We have this connection. I think that people from the Midwest and people, from this section of the country, we have bond.
Yeah. I think it's been wonderful to listen to kind of people talk about their different experiences, like in this region. And I know, like, especially with Wichita, there is such a strong arts community. And I've heard there's other comments from artists too about like this idea of competition doesn't really exist kind of in these communities, that they're so supportive and that people are always there to help and support.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's great. I love the community in Wichita. Because we're all in this together. We are our own group. It is like us against the world. So it's not us against each other, and it's not, we're not each other's competition. We're not each other's. We support and help each other. And so yeah, it's really nice.
It's a great place to be. One last question that I've been asking artists as well. We're obviously in this very unique situation right now in our country, with so many of us under, stay-at-home orders or, other reasons why we're, might be feeling more isolated. But is there anything specific that you're working on right now with like the COVID-19 shutdown, or any reflections on that?
Oh, well, I guess for the most part, it's just kind of like the summer vacation extended for me. I kind of enjoy solitude anyways. I like to think. I like to, contemplate things. And so I think that it's kind of giving a lot of people, the excuse to do that, to kind of be still and breathe and think about things. And so that's kind of what I'm focusing on, rather than like the scary parts of it and the terrifying virus.
Right.
But so I like the idea of being able to step back and I hope that we can continue that. I hope that people can get this taste of that feeling of that maybe being able to take more time for themselves and find joy and find happiness in the absence of other stuff.